Kathryn Hall Trujillo, known to many as Mama Cat, is one of the most vivacious and inspiring women I have had the opportunity to know. Mama Cat started the Birthing Project as a test initiative to be eventually funded by the government. The project provided clinical and health services to women under the philosophy that healthcare should be proactive instead of reactive. But the government funding never came. Instead, Mama Cat found herself so involved in the Birthing Project that she decided to never return to her government job. Instead, she devoted herself full-time to the expansion of the Birthing Project, including bringing it to New Orleans. Please join me in welcoming Mama Cat as our keynote speaker tonight.
Thank you. Okay, this is a test, right? I'm pointing it at you, not at... Oh, okay, so I can go back. It works. This is Mama Cat's quilt. And so what I want us all to think about is that we don't operate in a vacuum. We don't live in a vacuum. We weren't born in a vacuum. That what we do impacts several generations, and what we do is impacted by several generations prior to us. So what helps me keep that in mind is these pictures of who I am and how I fit into my family. So Corrine is my mother. Corrine is her mother's auntie, who was like the matriarch of our family. Kenya is my oldest daughter. Tamu is my youngest daughter. And little Kathryn, who's 25 years old now, is my first grandchild. And when little Kathryn was born, I really understood what this means. I'm a lay midwife, and little Kathryn was the first baby I delivered. And in addition to not being quite the same ever since I caught that baby, because to actually catch a baby that is your grandchild and hold that baby in your hands is an experience that you'll never get over. But what I understood when little Kathryn was born is that nothing could ever separate me from this child. And I understood how my mother felt about me, and I understood how her mother felt about me. I understood that life went on long before that I could remember, and it would go on longer than I would know. I also understood that I wanted the very best for little Kathryn in a way that I had never, ever understood before. And at that moment, I decided that what I really needed to do was to pray for little Kathryn. And as I was praying for Kathryn to have the best life that any child could ever have, I realized that there was not enough prayer in the world that could protect Kathryn if all the other children didn't have what little Kathryn had. Do you understand what I'm talking about? And so it was at that point that I understood that it's not just about what we want for our children, but what we want for all children, because that's the way you protect children. So that is the gift of little Kathryn, and the gift of my mother and Aunt Corrine and my daughters. It helped me place myself in a context. So being placed in a context and being where many of you are right now, we have to figure out not only who we are, but how we fit into the world. So the Birthing Project, of course, is called the Underground Railroad for New Life. So I channel Harriet Tubman a lot. And I love Harriet Tubman's theory. her theory was that each person has something to do in getting from slavery to freedom. That there were some people that could take a whole group from Tennessee to Canada and not lose a person. There were other people that could only take a message from one plantation to the next plantation. And then there were some people that couldn't do any of that, but you would say to them, you can help by just don't say anything. And so the idea is finding out the gift that each person has to offer in order to get the job done. And that's what we have to do, is figure out where we fit in there. And so it doesn't matter. Everyone doesn't have to go out and start a big entrepreneurship. Everyone doesn't have to start a nonprofit organization. Just sometimes being a good person and not being a part of the problem is enough. That's the gift that we bring. So the things that are important to me when I try to sort out where is my place in this is that I really care about moms and babies. But it took me a while to be courageous enough to figure out how I really fit into the world with this simple gift that I had. Because there's one part about my story that most of you probably don't know, is that I started off my adult life being homeless, living in the bus station in Oakland with 2 children. And so after I got out of the bus station and onto campus in one of the economic opportunity development programs, I wanted to have as much education as money could buy, and I wanted the best job that I could have so that I would have as much security and I would never end up in the bus station again. And because I was a high school dropout, I didn't want people to think that I was stupid. I wanted people to think that I was as smart as they were. So it took a lot of courage for me to say, you know, I don't really want a job working in corporate America. I don't want a job being the head anything in government. What I really want to do is be in a place where I can work hands-on with women and children and their fathers. I want a place where I can use my gift to work hands-on with traditional birth attendants and midwives. I want a place where I can just simply be a coach and be a support to young people who are going to medical school and then coming back and building the first hospital and the first healthcare system in Honduras. I want to be able to train the first certified doulas in the state of Louisiana that are women of color. I want to be able to support women and to be sister friends to other women who are having babies and need that kind of support. I want to have a program like the barbershop where men can get support in learning how to get jobs so that they can support themselves and their families. I want to be able to do things that are very, very simple. For example, this is our latest venture. In the 2 minutes that it would probably take me to explain what this is, 60 women will have died because they didn't have access to $5 worth of safe birth supplies. And I have been to a lot of meetings in my professional career where all kinds of men in business suits have sat around and tried to figure out how do we get safe birth supplies to women who need them. And what has happened is that a group of students who are working with the Birthing Project here at Tulane have figured out that these birth supplies cost the same thing as a cup of gourmet coffee. And certainly women who live in the United States and women who live in Europe and women who live in the United Kingdom would give up 1 cup of coffee to save one woman's life. So this is our latest venture, and this is at such a level of anybody can do this. So what am I doing now? I am working with students. I have been so inspired to kind of come full circle. Not just to teach students, but to learn from students, because most of the things that I learned when I was a student at UCLA are obsolete now. So it's not about the body of information that you're learning, but it's the ability to adapt to change, the ability to have new, not even just new answers, but new questions. And what students really need is they need, I think, support to be outside the box, and they need support to figure out how to create the jobs that we want, not just to graduate and to get a work permit and to go and find a job. So this is the first group of U.S. students that graduated from the medical school in Cuba in 2007. This is the first group of Honduran Garifuna students who graduated in Honduras in 2008. And I was very surprised when I moved here to find out that the third largest group of Garifunas in the United States lives right here in New Orleans. And for those of you who don't know, the Garifunas are the only people of African descent in this hemisphere who were not enslaved. And they're called the forgotten people in Honduras. They live in the farthest places that they can get away from cities, where they maintain their language, they maintain their culture. And students right here at Tulane are working to help them maintain the healthcare system that they have recently developed. And this is some of the young champions who were here in Tulane and at the Birthing Project last year, working with us to learn how to go back to their homes in Ethiopia and Nigeria and build their own birthing projects. So, the quilt is about magic, because the other thing that I want you to remember is to keep the magic in your life. The magic is the thing that evokes the human spirit, the thing that helps us know that it's not just about, are you in compliance with something? It's not just about, is it sustainable? It's not just about, is it evidence-based? But it's that feeling that I felt when I held that granddaughter, my granddaughter, and looked into her eyes for the first time and realized that it was magic. Because I have been involved in a lot of births in my life, and you could bring in all the technology, and you could bring in everything. And when that baby is born, everyone in the room holds their breath until that baby makes its first sound. And then there is a collective in the room. And the first sound, that first breath of life, is magic. It's something that none of us can make that happen. We do everything we can do, and then we wait for that breath of life. We wait for that magic to appear. And so it doesn't matter how many policies and procedures and principles and practices and whatever it is that we have, until we touch that human spirit, the life doesn't come forth. One of the lessons that I have learned in working in the Birthing Project and in working in Malawi is that the women don't feel happy when they're pregnant. And we come in and we bring nourishment, we bring technology, we bring all these things, but the women say, when I find out I'm pregnant, it makes me sad. Not only is there a great possibility that I'm not going to live through this, but it's going to be a burden not only to me and to my family, but to my community. So one of the things that we've been working on is bringing joy to pregnancy, to women who live in places where a baby is considered just one more barrier, one more obstacle to having what you need to take care of your family. And as a result of that, the village that we work in Malawi had their very first baby shower last year. But when we're talking about what can we do to help, we don't necessarily talk about how do we bring joy, how do we bring happiness, and also how do we bring inclusion so that people feel that they're not always at the receiving end of someone who had the privilege and the opportunity to go and find out how to come up with something that's going to solve their problem. I firmly believe that one of the reasons that people like myself, and I consider myself an urban village woman, have so many problems is because we feel that we don't have anything to contribute, that our lives are worthless. And part of evoking the magic and part of evoking that human spirit and people feeling like they have something to offer is giving people that opportunity to be a player. For everyone to feel that if I don't get up in the morning and I don't do something, my part of heaven will fall down on my head. And so that's the other thing I want you to remember, and what I'm so proud about the students that I work with is that we're learning to share power. That it's one thing to have all the answers, but it's something else to let somebody else get the answers as well. So I'm going to end with the quilt, because this is how we spread magic around the globe in the Birthing Project. When people come into the Birthing Project, either as a sister friend, which is a woman who is coming to be a big sister to a pregnant woman, or to a pregnant woman who's going to have a big sister, one of the activities that they do is they make a quilt together. And the quilt simply has the name of the woman who's the sister friend, the woman who's the little sister, and someone who kind of represents what it means to be a sister friend to another woman. But as the women are making the quilt, something happens in that they remember what it's like to give that support to another woman, and they remember what it's like to receive that support, and they want to show their gratitude. And so these quilts come out very, very beautiful, as you can see. And we've been in business now for about 23 years, and we're in 7 countries. Over 12,000 babies have been born into the Birthing Project. So you can imagine how many quilts there are. And my dream and my hope is that when archaeologists dig up the planet, they're going to find these quilts all over, and they're going to figure out that the quilts are a testimony that women cared for each other, that they stood up for each other, and that they made something beautiful and magical. They turned the relationship they had into art. We were doing good here. And so, what we have seen in the very, very small way that we have the courage to work, which is at that person-to-person level, that village level, that urban village level, is that we have managed to connect ourselves from Mississippi to Malawi. And the biggest dream that we had is to be a part of that human circle, to really, really understand that the blood we share is deeper than the oceans that separate us. And that is the truth for all of us, that none of us can survive any more than my granddaughter could have survived unless all of us survive. So, this is my challenge to you. This is part of our latest group of interns that are at the Birthing Project, is what is the magic that you're going to evoke? I'm not talking about what is the business that you're going to build, you know, what's the wonderful career that you're going to have, but what is the magic that you're going to evoke that's going to keep the human spirit alive? The thing that's really going to be the secret ingredient in terms of saving the planet. The thing that is going to live for those generations to come. The thing that, because you did this, your grandchild or your nephew or your niece or someone that you love will feel that the world is a better place. And I would like to think that I feel secure as a grandmother passing the torch on to you. Because what I have seen is that I feel a lot like the song Sweet Honey in the Rock. Hey child, you look a lot like me, but you're smarter and you're stronger than I'll ever be. That all the things that I know that you are capable of means that that little bit that I do, that little place that I stand and hold up my part of heaven is secure, because you're going to take it further than I could ever imagine. And for that, I thank you. Thank you.